Tom Parker Bowles has enjoyed a distinguished career in the spotlight as a food writer. He's authored several cookbooks, served as a restaurant critic for the Mail on Sunday, and judged numerous culinary TV competitions. But recently, the royal family has been rocked by turmoil after Queen Camilla's son publicly launched a shocking insult at Prince William, an attack so brazen it sent shockwaves through the monarchy. What began as a private disagreement quickly escalated into a full-blown scandal, with cameras rolling and royal aides scrambling to contain the fallout. Yet it was Prince William's unexpected response that truly captivated the world, calm, vengeful, and strangely forgiving. Insiders revealed that his next move completely upended the royal narrative. The whispers swirl that Camilla's position may be in jeopardy. But what exactly happened and why now? The night Tom sparked this royal earthquake was September 2024. London was cloaked in its signature fog, the kind that seemed to make even Mayfair's ancient bricks murmur secrets. Claridge's Hotel, a haven of velvet luxury and royal history, shone like a jewel through the mist. Inside, under the soft glow of chandeliers and the delicate clinking of cutlery, the city's elite gathered to celebrate literature, legacy, and something far more dangerous. The occasion was the launch of Tom Parker Bowles' latest book, sumptuous tribute to aristocratic cuisine. But those attuned to the subtle shifts of power behind palace doors sensed this was no ordinary evening. This was a carefully staged performance, and Tom was about to serve a chill, colder than the finest champagne. Among the glittering guests stood Princess Anne, unflappable, elegant, draped in deep green silk. She hadn't come for the toasts or the canapes. She'd come because she sensed something rotten beneath the polished veneer. An undercurrent rooted not in cooking but in power. Camilla, ever the strategist, had personally extended the invitation. She stood nearby, smiling, her gloved hands folded, sending a silent message. "My son belongs here." Anne recognized it immediately, not as a gesture of warmth, but as a warning cloaked in civility. Tom, dressed in a tailored navy suit, took the podium. His voice was smooth, yet edged like a chef's blade, commanding the room. He began with charming stories and culinary nostalgia before striking at the monarchy's core. "Prince William," said, pausing for effect, "has not been kind to my mother. He treats her as a stranger, as if she doesn't exist." A gasp swept through the crowd, champagne glasses froze mid-air, cameras flashed wildly. But the sharpest silence came from Princess Anne. Her jaw tightened, eyes locking onto Tom's like twin blades. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She didn't need to. One glance alone delivered a message sharper than any speech. "You've crossed the line." An aide leaned in, voice barely steady. "Your Highness, what do you make of it?" Anne's reply was low, yet cold enough to freeze the room. "The son of a dangerous mother." With those words, the velvet mask of the evening began to unravel. So what shattered behind those polished smiles? Loyalty? Betrayal? Or something far darker? Stay tuned, this is only the beginning. Whispers of power. Echoes of war. By November 2024, Tom Parker Bowles was no longer just the charming food critic with a velvety voice and a refined palate. He had subtly but deliberately evolved into a man circling the throne's outer edge. His critiques once stirred kitchens. Now, his presence stirred rooms adorned with crown portraits and centuries-old secrets. With best-selling books and countless appearances across Britain's cultural stage, Tom had earned his fame. But fame, as the monarchy knows all too well, is merely a tool. Power is the real prize. When King Charles III was crowned in May, few noticed the man advising the royal kitchen on the coronation menu. Yet Tom's fingerprints were everywhere, symbolic, elegant, and surprisingly strategic. That role granted him access not only to kitchens but to royal vaults of influence. He mingled with palace staff, exchanged laughter with lords and duchesses, whispered ambitions behind wine glasses. Those close enough to listen heard the truth. Tom wasn't just serving meals, he was savoring influence. In the months that followed, became a familiar presence at private gatherings. Queen Camilla's son's revealing interview about his mother's decades-long relationship with King Charles. Tom offering rare insights into Camilla's private life. Cotswold garden parties, discreet Windsor dinners, even high-profile sustainability retreats. In every room he played the same role: polite, informed, disarming. But beneath the surface, every handshake was a calculated move in a game far bigger than gastronomy. Always by his side was the strategist, Queen Camilla herself. Decades of surviving Britain's coldest institution had honed her instincts. She wasn't just proud of her son. She was quietly, carefully shaping him. At Clarence House, beneath the soft glow of lamps older than most monarchs, she spoke gently. To King Charles, "Tom's always had a passion for the land," she said, painting a tender portrait of her son's dream, managing a modest Cornish estate. It would give him purpose, a way to serve something meaningful. Charles, calmed by her gentle tone, agreed without suspicion. Soon, discreet and untraceable contracts were signed, and Tom was handed the reins to a royal property. But everything changed on October 19th, when headlines exploded after Camilla's son publicly criticized Prince William. The mood shifted instantly. At Kensington Palace, a newspaper trembled slightly in William's grip. He didn't blink, didn't shout, but his silence thickened the air. "Who does he think he is?" muttered. Then came the cold directive. Sharp and absolute. Dig into everything. And now, a question haunts every corridor of the palace. Who gave the order to destroy her? And why now? Stay tuned. This is a feast set for power, not blood. By late November 2024, the smoke from Tom Parker Bowles' scandalous remarks still hovered over the royal household. But those within the palace walls knew this was no passing embarrassment. It was a declaration, one that demanded attention. For Prince William, Tom's words weren't just offensive. They were an incursion, boundary crossed, a challenge draped in charm and entitlement. Left unchecked, it could spark a quiet coup. But William wasn't the only one watching. At Sandringham and Windsor, in shadowed corridors where secrets speak louder than footsteps, Princess Anne was quietly gathering intelligence. Her decades inside the palace had sharpened her instincts for deception. Tom's sudden rise, his management of the Cornish estate, and his carefully curated presence at royal summits had long set off alarm bells now. New reports landed on her desk, transforming suspicion into certainty. It wasn't just Cornwall. Tom had been holding discreet meetings with senior members of the Duchy of Cornwall, whispering proposals promising green reform, but heavy with deeper influence. He'd met wealthy landowners in Gloucestershire. He'd traveled quietly to a centuries-old estate in the Scottish Highlands. Each location was not only steeped in history, but tied directly to royal authority. Each proposal came cloaked in the noble guise of sustainability, but Anne could taste the ambition beneath every word. The tipping point came in early December. Clarence's house, with its centuries-old oak panels and dim flickering firelight, became the stage for a confrontation years in the making. Anne arrived, a dossier in hand. Thick, detailed, impossible to ignore. It held every estate Tom had touched, every back-channel deal Camilla had orchestrated, every whispered influence cloaked in royal protocol. The moment Anne placed it on the table, the room seemed to freeze. She looked Camilla dead in the eye. "You've brought your son to the feast," she said, her voice sharp as shattered glass. "But this is the table of the crown, not a family dinner." Camilla didn't flinch. That peculiar smile, half regal, half venomous, curved across her lips. She said nothing, but her silence roared louder than any words could. Anne stood, turned sharply, and left the room. Yet as the dossier lay unopened beside Camilla's teacup, a storm was already brewing. Anne had gained an unexpected ally, one burning with quiet fury and bearing the name of the future king, Prince William. Now, with a sealed dossier and a silent pact, a tempest stirs between duty and blood. The pact at Sandringham, December 2024. Sandringham, Norfolk. The royal estate stood swallowed in fog, its sprawling acres blanketed by a winter mist. so thick it blurred the boundary between reality and omen. The ancient house loomed like a watchtower, its stone face marked by centuries, standing firm against the sharp bite of the north wind. Inside, away from the world's prying eyes, secret meeting was unfolding, unlisted, unwitnessed by staff, absent of ceremony. Just two members of the royal bloodline, Princess Anne and Prince William. They were brought together not by protocol, but by necessity, and arrived first, silent and composed. Her wool coat as dark as pine needles, silver hair pinned with military precision. Her footsteps echoed through the wooden halls as she entered the old study, where the fireplace hissed and popped. She scanned the room with the calculating calm of someone who had spent a lifetime guarding something sacred. She didn't sit to relax. She anchored herself as if the chair itself were a war post. Her fingers gripped the armrests tightly, her face an unreadable mask. Minutes later, William entered. No guards, no aides. The future king wore a modest gray suit, but his presence carried the unmistakable weight of a crown. His expression was neutral, almost unreadable. Yet beneath it, something restless stirred. He greeted his aunt with a nod. Neither formal nor casual. A signal. He was ready to listen. Anne spoke first. No small talk, no softening. Her voice seasoned and sure, sliced through the silence. "Camilla's playing a dangerous game," she said flatly. William listened, breath steady. Ow. But Anne wasn't just briefing him. She was warning him. Whisper. Networks, secret contracts, selective access to estates. Camilla was pulling threads from every direction, and Tom Parker Bowles was at the center. Not by blood, not by royal decree, but through backroom manipulation and a mother's careful orchestration. "She's embedding him," Anne said, eyes locked on her nephew, through influence, not lineage. "And your father, blinded by love and fatigue, is letting it happen." William's jaw clenched. The sting of Tom's public insult still lingered. But this was far more lethal. A long-term infiltration of the very legacy Queen Elizabeth II had devoted her life to protect. He looked at it in anger crystallizing into purpose. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, low and measured. Anne didn't hesitate. "Use your title. Use your reach. Quietly, decisively. You are the Prince of Wales. The monarchy answers to you, not to Camilla. And certainly not to her son." William sat in silence, letting the weight of her words sink deep into his bones. Then he stood slowly as if the ground beneath him had shifted. His nod was small but final, as he stepped into the mist-choked air outside. Anne turned toward the frost-tinted window, her breath fogging the glass. The game was no longer quiet. The war had begun. How did a silent glance ignite a royal reckoning? What secrets lie frozen behind Kensington's glass? Stay close to uncover everything in the hidden purge of Kensington by the evening of December 12, 2024. A new storm was gathering, not in the press, not in the public eye, but deep within the stone walls of Kensington Palace, beneath gilded ceilings and watchful ancestral portraits. Prince William sat alone at his oak desk, sleeves rolled back, eyes locked on a stack of confidential documents. The dim golden lamp flickered against his jawline as he read page after page in silence, while the walls seemed to close in around him. What began at Sandringham as a whispered alliance had now sharpened into a campaign, quiet, clinical, and dangerously precise. Following his meeting with Princess Anne, William wasted no time. Though his orders remained unspoken to the public, they carried the full weight of his title. As Prince of Wales, his control over the Duchy of Cornwall, a financial empire in its own right, gave him more than symbolic power. It gave him the levers of control, and now he was pulling them. That very night, London's icy streets fell silent beneath a heavy winter fog. William summoned a hand-picked circle of advisors to a private room behind thick velvet curtains. No staff, no leaks, no mistakes. Around the table sat senior financial officers, legal minds loyal to the bone, and property managers sworn to the crown. William stood, dressed in a tailored black suit. the firelight casting sharp shadows across his face. "We're restructuring the monarchy," he declared, voice low and exact. "Anyone linked to Camilla or Tom is out. No exceptions." It was not a suggestion. It was a directive. And so it began. Over the following weeks, the quiet halls of the royal machine shifted. One by one, names once seen dining with Camilla or consulting with Tom Parker Bowles vanished from the inner circle. No headlines, no public firings, just subtle removals, reassignments to distant posts, consultancies that never materialized. Early retirements with severance packages too generous to refuse. A purge disguised as routine transition, executed with the stealth of a silent assassin. Meanwhile, William ordered something far more lethal than public disgrace: a full internal audit, officially framed as a standard check for transparency across the Duchy of Cornwall and related estates. Those close to the operation knew better. It was a surgical excavation, designed to expose Camilla's financial web. The results were damning, delivered in a sealed report days before Christmas. The findings painted a picture not of royal efficiency, but of quiet exploitation. At the center, Annabel Elliott, Owl. The audit revealed she'd lived rent-free for over a decade in a luxury Gloucestershire property, an estate meant to generate millions for the duchy. Her title, Chief of Interior Design, spanned 18 years and came with a salary, but no real substance. Many of her supposed design projects had been outsourced or existed only on paper. As William sat reading the final summary under the warm lamp in his study, the calm drained from his face. His hands clenched the edge of the document, knuckles white. The fury was controlled, but far from dormant. "We end this now," he said quietly. With those words, the monarchy took its first irreversible step toward war. But how far will bloodlines bend before they break? Who cast the first stone in this silent royal conflict? Keep watching. The first strike lands December 2024. Long past midnight. Deep within the silent corridors of Kensington Palace, Prince William met with his legal team. No pleasantries, no delays. His order was simple and final: terminate Annabel Elliott's contract. Immediately. She was to vacate the Gloucestershire estate within 48 hours. No extensions. No mediation. The prince's words, cold and deliberate, carried the unmistakable weight of a monarchy reclaiming its throne. At that very hour, Annabel sat in the drawing room of the estate she'd called home for over a decade. The fire crackled gently beneath oil portraits and velvet drapes, Persian rugs cushioning her every step. Glass of wine rested untouched. Then her phone vibrated once, twice. Her expression fell. The message was brief, brutal. She dialed Camilla, voice already trembling. "They're kicking me out, Camilla. William won't even let me speak." On the other end of the line, Camilla closed her eyes. Her sister's panic cut through her like a blade, but her silence was louder still. She knew William had struck with precision-making. Sure, no one would stand in Annabel's defense. Every ally she once counted on had fallen silent, swept away by Anne's unyielding influence or William's looming authority. This wasn't just about one woman losing her title or home. It was a warning, a message written in ink and sealed in silence. The backdoor politics, the quiet privileges, they ended here. With Anne watching the board and William making the moves, the purge was no longer hidden. But behind palace walls, Camilla wasn't mourning, she was calculating. The blow had landed, but the war had only just begun. A throne divided. Soft golden light poured from crystal chandeliers, casting fractured reflections onto Camilla's strained face, alone in her private quarters. She clutched the notice confirming Annabel's abrupt dismissal, sacked, stripped of titles, and removed from the Gloucestershire estate within 48 hours. The brutality wasn't just shocking, it was surgical. It rattled her to the core. Camilla had always thrived in the subtle game of palace politics. Her strength was never in open confrontation, but in whispers, knowing how to bend power without breaking it. But now, that power was slipping fast. She knew what was at stake. A direct challenge to Prince William or Princess Anne could shatter the careful public image she'd spent decades polishing. This fight would require a more delicate hand, A cold morning fog clung to the windows as Camilla made her way to the king's third study. Ow! The door creaked softly as she stepped inside. King Charles III sat slouched in his chair, pale and worn, still recovering from months of treatment. The air was thick with the weight of his silence. The slow tick of an antique clock sounded louder than usual, almost accusatory. "Charles? Shh," she said softly, voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. "Why is William doing this?" "Annabelle meant no harm. She's been loyal. Can you speak to him, please?" The king didn't look up. His gaze remained fixed on the fireplace. "Camilla," he replied, almost a whisper, "I've done my part. He's taken the reins now. I don't want more trouble." A quiet refusal, but a crushing one. Camilla stood frozen, then nodded, masking devastation beneath practiced calm. But inside, fury simmered. She pivoted quickly. If the king wouldn't act, others might. Within hours, she dispatched a flurry of private letters. Each word carefully chosen, to trusted members of the Privy Council, men and women whose influence shaped decisions behind palace doors. Her message was clear. Prince William is destabilizing the monarchy with rash actions. The purge of loyal family affiliates, including her sister, could fracture the institution at its core. But what Camilla didn't know was that her plea had arrived far too late. Weeks earlier, Princess Anne had already moved quietly and efficiently. In secret meetings held across Westminster, Anne had spoken to those very same Privy Council members, her calm gravitas, an unimpeachable loyalty to the crown, delivering something far more persuasive than emotion, evidence, financial missteps, shell contracts, confidential memos, all traced back to Annabelle, Elliot, and Tom Parker Bowles. Anne's tone wasn't angry, it was noble. "This isn't about family politics," she told them. "It's about protecting the crown's integrity. If we allow those outside the bloodline to misuse royal influence, we dishonor the Queen's legacy." No one argued, no one needed to. Anne hadn't just countered Camilla, she'd erased her from the board before the game even began. Finally, the silence broke the crown. Had Camilla been outplayed from the very start? Stay with us. The reckoning isn't over. The Fall of Shadows. By early February 2025, the gilded walls of Windsor Castle, polished to perfection at yet another royal gala, concealed far more than tradition and power. Behind the music, the dancing, and the endless sparkle of diamonds, a quiet purge tightened its grip. At its center, Camilla was running out of allies. The media firestorm swirling around Tom Parker Bowles refused to die down. His furious outburst against Prince William, delivered publicly at his book launch just weeks earlier, had become the stone that shattered his empire. The press, ravenous for blood, unearthed his questionable business links, many entwined with royal properties. Once Tom's name had lit up the culinary world. Now, it was dragged through scandal. Key investors severed ties. Deals collapsed. High-end projects crumbled like stale pastry. His name, once mentioned alongside Michelin stars, now trended beside disgrace. He was left with empty reservations, an wrecked reputation. Camilla, watching her son sink under the weight of royal retaliation, began to disappear from view. She pulled out of 3 official engagements in a row, blaming a sudden throat infection, but the tabloids didn't buy it. Whispers of a brewing royal feud spread fast. Online forums speculated wildly. Had the Queen's influence finally crumbled? At a royal gala on February 17th, Windsor Castle became the backdrop for a power play cloaked in pleasantries. Prince William, composed and commanding in a tailored black suit, worked the room like a seasoned statesman. Camilla arrived dressed in emerald green, her smile poised but brittle. Every step, every glance toward William reminded her of everything she'd lost: her sister Annabelle, her circle of power, and now her public standing. Then came the coldest dagger from the edges of the ballroom. Princess Anne emerged, impeccably dressed, her expression unreadable. She moved toward Camilla with the grace of a dancer, but her words struck like a blade. "Did you think you could bend the crown to your will?" Camilla stuttered, voice barely above a whisper. I only want what's best for the family. Anne's reply was ice. You're not blood. And ambition isn't loyalty. The air thickened. Camilla's champagne glass trembled in her fingers. A few drops slipped onto the marble floor. She wanted to answer back, to fight, but nothing came. The warning landed silently, yet decisively. Anne walked away without a backward glance. Camilla was left standing not as a queen, but as a woman suddenly aware of her powerlessness. In the weeks that followed, monarchy shifted. Annabel Elliot quietly moved out of the Gloucestershire estate. No formal statements, no dramatic headlines. Just photos her suitcases tacked into an unmarked van circulating online. The public sensed something unspoken had occurred, something that reeked of quiet ruthlessness. Camilla, once the palace's most influential figure, was reduced to occasional photo ops. Her radiant smile forced, her eyes dim. Behind closed doors, she became the ghost of a forgotten war. Tom faded even faster. Once courted by royals and critics alike, he now penned food columns no one read. Invitations stopped. The spotlight gone. And yet, as the old guard fell, Anne and William was always polite, always silent, but firm. Together, they steadied the monarchy not with press conferences, but by removing threats without spectacle. So what do you think truly drove Anne and William to dismantle Camilla's power silently? Was it loyalty? Or vengeance? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.